and welcome to the CPD Group podcast. Join us as we guide you through all things CPD, interview some special guests, and offer advice to help your business thrive. We hope you enjoy listening. Hello everybody and welcome back to the CPD Group podcast. Today what we're doing is we are interviewing a man called Dan Pritchard. Dan is the owner of the Outdoor Ed School. So he's here today to talk to us about outdoor education. Dan, welcome. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me onto your podcast.
Oh, no, you're very welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. When we reached out to our network, Dan actually sent us in a message saying that he'd like to get involved in the podcast and join us to tell us about what these guys are doing out there with outdoor education. So, Dan, tell us about the Outdoor Ed School, yourself, and how it all started.
So the Outdoor Ed School was our new kind of avenue of trying to get the whole kind of embedded learning and the philosophy inside outdoor education over to teachers and making it a little bit more accessible for schools who don't really have much space or enough financial resource to take their students off-site to activity centres. The idea came to us because I've been working in the outdoor industry for about 12 years now. I've been providing kind of expeditions all around the world, providing these amazing activities, but they have been to a very select group of people, which are really the schools and the individuals who can afford it. So I created a couple of different companies. One of them is Everyone's Adventure, who go around providing mobile outdoor activities inside schools. So it kind of removes the hurdles of travel and the logistics of travel and all that kind of stuff. However, we've now got to another snagging point where schools are running into a huge budget problem. And that budget problem has kind of affected a lot of the alternative learning that the students were getting access to, and mainly kind of outdoor learning. So the whole idea of outdoor learning is not them taking part in these activities, which is an amazing experience. It's this idea of kind of holistic growth, getting them to step out of their comfort zone, try something new, challenge themselves personally, but also looking at those social skills which we use on an everyday basis, getting them to kind of learn how to collaborate with their peers, communicate with their peers, come up with a plan and use that plan, execute that plan and develop it as it goes along. And that's the whole idea of alternative learning, not just outdoor ed. And that's kind of slowly slipping away because people can't get hold of the resources that they need to be able to do it. And so the Outdoor Ed School was born with the idea that I would train teachers to provide low risk activities, which still have all of that alternative learning development inside them, and that they would be able to deliver it on a regular basis so that students aren't just getting one day out of their whole school career. They're getting maybe 4 or 5 every term. And then to try and give that a little bit of credit is where I reached out and got in touch with you guys. So now we provide the more kind of complex activities. We've created CPD courses, which teachers can then access. They get a qualification that goes along with it, but they also get that confidence knowing that they can deliver something which is meaningful, well structured to their students. And that's kind of the birthplace of the Outdoor Ed School.
That sounds really exciting stuff, to be fair. Because I imagine, teachers, a lot of them do struggle, especially inner city schools, where they don't have access to nice green outdoor spaces very much, So these kind of activities, I'm sure, are really supporting their delivery of the curriculum, by using this alternative education, but in a more kind of confined space, let's call it. I mean, is that something, do you find a lot of teachers access it from the inner city schools?
Yeah, that is maybe 80% of the schools which come and approach us, because there's a big push on forest school training at this moment in time, which is ideal for schools which do, like you say, have a forest area, have a green open space that they can go out and do these activities. However, a lot of schools just have a playground, or they have a field, but they've kind of taken down all the trees, all the bushes are taken away. It's very much just a grass area. And so that forest school kind of ethos doesn't really work as well with those schools as it does with schools that do have access to that kind of environment. So instead of not giving them the opportunity to take part in those activities, it's giving them the access to activities which work perfectly in that space. So instead of going down the idea of trying to connect them to nature, it's trying to get them to connect with each other, but in an outdoor area. So looking at, you still get the same kind of benefits of going outside into a green space or outside and working in the elements. You're still getting them to prepare and for what they're going to experience on that day. So if it's cold, bringing something that's warm. If it's wet, bringing the waterproofs with you. But you're, instead of focusing on that aspect of like trying to light fire or identify plants, which maybe aren't appropriate in the environment they're working in, it's very much like, right, let's have a pioneering challenge where we can build towers or catapults or those kind of things, and still getting them to work with each other in the outdoor environment, but it's looking at problem-based learning rather than kind of environmental-based learning.
Excellent stuff. Yeah. I mean, can you give us a couple of examples of the activities that you kind of put out there for teachers just to kind of get to those learning outcomes that you've just mentioned?
Yeah. So there's two sections of the Outdoor Ed School. There's the free section of the Outdoor Ed School, which is very much looking at problem-solving challenges, team challenges, review models, those kind of things, which most outdoor centres will train their staff in so that they can embed those learning outcomes within their sessions. So that'd be stuff like plan, do, review, the AID model, those kind of things. The other half is the CPD registered courses that we've done, which is stuff like sucker archery, club throwing, bushcraft, pioneering, those kind of activities. They're the activities that you would go to an outdoor activity centre to provide, but they're not a activity which is under a national governing body. So there is no certificate or recognised framework of training for those activities. You still get all of these national curriculum learning outcomes. They meet all the national curriculum learning outcomes, but you're not taking on the risk of it, because sucker archery, we're taking away the points, but you still get the development of progressive learning. You still get the hand-eye coordination. You still get the gross and fine motor skills development, as well as getting them to take part in an adventurous activity. With club throwing, it's taking away the sharp edges of axe throwing. Again, hand-eye coordination, taking part in an adventurous activity out in an outdoor space. So it's hitting those national curriculum learning outcomes for Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and Key Stage 3, but reducing the cost, because for the same price that you'd be able to take a one class to an outdoor activity centre, you'll be able to train up a teacher with a CPD qualification. So they get those points, they get that framework, they get all of that information, and they'll also be able to purchase all the equipment that we kind of signpost them towards. We signpost them to loads of different providers, so they've got an option of who they want to get their activity equipment from. So for less money than one class, they've set themselves up with all the knowledge and all the equipment, and so they can provide the same activity that they were going to purchase from an outdoor activity centre, but at their school, not just for one class, but as many classes they like, for as many years as they want as well. And the idea with the CPD qualification is we'll keep it open for people who have already accessed it, so they can go back and keep themselves updated as many times as they like, and there's progression onto other activities as they go along.
Excellent stuff. I mean, you mentioned there that, excuse me, that the education kind of outdoor activities that you offer cover Key Stage 1, 2, and 3. I mean, they're essential years of learning, aren't they? So these kind of outdoor activities help with that personal social development as much as hitting the criteria of the curriculum. So, I mean, what are the major challenges do you find that teachers have with meeting those kind of curriculum outcomes, trying to make these kind of creative activities interesting for the children while they're doing it?
Yeah, well, that's basically what I've created all of my businesses around, is answering that problem that you've just asked. So the problems that they run into, first of all, is financial. Second of all, is travel, because that's logistic-wise and expense-wise one of the biggest hurdles that schools need to get over and get around. And the last one is the quality of what they are purchasing as well. So the activity itself. A lot of schools have developed these relationships with nearby outdoor activity centres, which they started off with a couple or three people who were incredibly passionate about the outdoors, who learn as much as they possibly can about the sports that they're providing, the activities they're providing, but also layered it with these amazing review models and embedded learning structures as well. However, because people are starting to, well, class sizes are growing and the money that they have is declining. When they go to a centre, they're no longer going, I have 12 pupils in a group. They're now going, I have 35 students in a group. Can you do something? And so there's not that much increase of the money which comes along, but there's a definite double or triple of the size of the students' classes that are coming along. So centres are now having to bring in maybe apprentices. They're running activities with 4 apprentices and 1 lead instructor or so on, just so they can make stuff work for the bracket of money that school's bringing in. And because they're doing that, the apprentices have developed their skill set to provide the activity safely, but they haven't embedded the learning inside it. So you're very much getting, well, schools are very much getting a photo opportunity. The teacher will stand next to them and take a photo of them holding a bow, and that goes into their report, rather than that amazing embedded learning structure they were getting maybe 5 years ago. So even if they took the CPD courses that we provide, but then they still went to the outdoor activity centres, they would be armed with this kind of review structure. They know how to front load a session, so set the kind of expectations from the session before going to the activity centre. And then they're equipped with the review models to be able to draw out the learning, so that the students aren't just going there for a photo opportunity. They're going there that they can kind of tease out the learning and the growth that they get both inside and also as a team as well. And so that is the crucial part of the national curriculum learning outcomes. If you look at the national curriculum, Key Stage 1 doesn't actually have outdoor ed included in it. It just says that they want them to take part in experiences which get them to think about tactics and teamwork. And so outdoor activities can definitely support that part of the growth. But Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3, they both have this outdoor ed unit inside the curriculum. And they are looking at taking part in adventurous activities, but which challenge them intellectually and physically. So getting them moving, getting their minds working. And so if we can embed those kind of personal growth and those social skills growth inside those sessions, that's when you're starting to hit all of the curriculum requirements for outdoor ed. So if a teacher takes part in the CPD courses, they'll be armed, and if they still take their students to an outdoor centre, well, at least they can hit everything in the national curriculum rather than just a photo opportunity, if that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it sounds like a fantastic program. I mean, I've been on your website just previous to coming on to the podcast with you, and I noticed, you've got the hub area on there where you offer lots of different information. And I noticed you're doing your own podcast as well. So we were just talking off air, actually, just a little bit about that and how you're, trying to position the company as a bit of an advisory place and a resource hub for teachers. Tell us a little bit more about that side of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly that. So the idea of the Outdoor Ed School, or the philosophy behind it, is that we want to make outdoor ed easy for teachers and accessible to all schools. And so, as we've already mentioned, financial situations schools are very much strained. So there's a free section, which is the hub. And the hub is filled with session plans for problem-solving activities, team challenges, and outdoor resources as well. There's blogs. But there is this podcast, and the podcast is the thing we're kind of getting the most traction on, because people don't mind sitting down and listening to a 5 to 10 minute video of me going, hey, this is a team challenge that you'll be able to provide in the comfort of your classroom, hit these kind of personal growth learning outcomes, as well as getting their minds working, their bodies working, which only take 5 or 10 minutes, and you can do it at the start of the day. We also try to make sure that they only use everyday items. So you don't need to invest in anything. You're using pens and paper. You're using just the brief itself, those kind of things to make it accessible to all. And the podcast can be split up into loads of different things, like you do. You put these recordings onto YouTube so people can access it as a video. We do the same. You put it onto Spotify, people can access it there. But also we take the audio recordings and we put that on our website. We take snippet shots and put it all over the place as well. So trying to push out the information for free to as many teachers as we possibly can who are maybe looking for something to bolster up their class, to give them something to support the growth of their class's social skills. And the main one is kind of those alternative learning. So linking back to that, the alternative learning provision, which could be people who are homeschooling, it could be additional needs schools, it could be behavioural schools. The whole idea of that, those kind of provisions, is to support students to access a curriculum in a way which is best suited to them. And that's where this can be quite powerful. Because if you take the free models that we put onto the podcast and you provide those 5-10 minute snapshot sessions once or twice a week, you're giving your students the opportunity to develop a skill set which then will help them interact with a more mainstream curriculum when they get the chance to re-engage in it, which allows them to access more job opportunities and go to college and those kind of things by trying to develop their skill set to interact with their peers and their teacher in a more positive manner as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the things, just going back a little bit, you mentioned is one of the kind of hurdles that are faced by schools is budget cuts. You know, as the political landscape's changing, you know, and these budget restraints are coming into place and, you know, money's tight all around the country. Are you finding that more teachers, because, I mean, I come from a family which has many teachers in it. A lot of my friends are teachers as well. And they're all very, very creative people. And they really, really want to do these fantastic activities with their young people. But they find that they just can't. You know, there's too many hurdles in the way for them to actually produce these kind of really exciting sessions for the young people. So, you know, are you finding now that the budget restraints are in place and, you know, money's getting more tight every single year, that more teachers are coming to you for these kind of creative activities?
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I own and run another mobile activity company. And as soon as the budget started to get cut about 2 years ago, we had more and more people getting in touch with us because they could access still the amazing activities, but they didn't have to pay for the £1,000 for the coach to take their 60 students to an outdoor centre. But even that's becoming out of reach for most schools now. And like you said, a lot of teachers, they can see the benefit and the outcomes that the students are getting from outdoor activities. And that's why they're so passionate to push their schools to give their students the opportunity to take part in these outdoor activities. And a lot of schools are reaching out, a lot of teachers are reaching out because they don't get the chance to take their schools regularly to an outdoor centre. So they want to access the resources that we're putting out. But also there's a few teachers are using it as evidence. So they're providing these maybe once every other week, and they're tracking the progress of their students. They're getting them to use the review models and the reflection models so that when they're given more and more complex challenges, they can see their students breaking up into teams. They can see their students making a plan before taking these activities on, and then making a dynamic plan as things progress throughout that activity as well. And they're using that as evidence to then take to their head teachers and go, hey, look, my students have benefited so much for us doing this in the classroom. Is there a chance that we can now invest in some equipment and I can provide this for other classes and still hit the outdoor activities section of the national curriculum by doing the CPD courses? So it's all kind of progressive as it goes along. And the whole idea of the outdoor ed school was never to be a progressive thing. It was meant to be a way to give outdoor ed, to make outdoor ed accessible to all these teachers. And it's just kind of gone along the route of developing into courses so people can hit the national curriculum learning outcomes while still hitting the CPD requirements for the teachers as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the CPD requirements there. So, you know, the courses that you put together don't just sound like they're beneficial to the young people that are in the classroom, but also to the teachers to develop them as professionals as well. I mean, are your courses there to help the teachers grow as much as the young people?
Yeah, definitely. So the idea is that we give them a tool all of these are just, we give loads and loads and loads of tools, but without the teacher kind of buying into it, without the teacher investing time to commit to the tool, it won't be as powerful as if they do. So we're giving them the opportunity to learn about the tools. We're then giving them the support that they need to develop their skill set to use the tools, and then they can use that not just in these outdoor ed or problem solving kind of tasks. They can take that throughout all of the lessons that they've got. The plan, do, and review doesn't just have to be about taking on a low ropes challenge. Plan, do, and review could be about how someone takes on coursework, coming up with a structure of how they're going to find all the resources and all the information they need, how they're going to actually execute writing their coursework, how they're going to review it, and how they're going to implement any changes to make it better as it goes along. So it's very much a tool set which, with a little bit of creativity, can be used across all of the aspects of their teaching. Because teaching, mentoring, coaching, they're all very, very closely knitted. And if we can share the skill set across all of them, well, then we're supporting our students in the best way we possibly can to succeed. Teachers, as you've said beforehand, they are very passionate individuals who like to share information and support people, and they're always looking for a new way to be able to support their students. But also, as a personal front for themselves, doing the same thing over and over again can become quite boring. So we're giving them the chance to be able to diversify what they're providing, make it a little bit more exciting for themselves, but still kind of reaching their overall goal, which is to support their individuals to be successful. And that, I think that's the reason why it's had such a good impact on so many teachers and other outdoors providers and homeschoolers, because it gives them the opportunity to diversify what they're providing while still pushing their students to the ultimate goal, which is to be successful at the end of it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It sounds like really good stuff, to be honest, Dan. You know, it's really impressive what you're doing. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of teachers out there that have benefited massively from actually engaging with your CPD courses. So, you know, when you came to us, you know, you asked to have your courses accredited by us, etc. How did you find that process?
The process was really good. So you have the accredited framework. And so when I actually approached you, I'd already trained close to 50 teachers of how to provide different outdoor activities, but with no certificate at the end. Them just going like, we've run out of money. Is there anything you can do? And me coming along going, yeah, no worries. I'll volunteer some time. I'll provide this. You try and replicate it. If you need any help, give us a shout. And as more and more teachers kind of reached out and go, can you do the same thing for us? I thought, right, let's put something that's a little bit more established into place, something that's a solid framework that people can go backwards and forwards. And as every person does, they create a course, it turns into their kind of their work baby. They don't really want to change too much of it. And so when I thought, right, let's get this CPD accredited, and I found your accredited framework, it allowed me to do exactly what I have been preaching to so many teachers and students, which is take a step back, reflect on what I've already done and see what I can improve for it. Gave it a bit more structure, put a little bit more meat on the bones, got me to think of it in a different way, which meant that the product that I'm now providing at the end of it is more thought through. It's more mindful about how people are going to be interacting with the course, what elements need to be included in the course, but also gives them that timeline of being able to go, right, these are the sections that I need to work through, the modules that I need to complete. And then I know at the end, I get a certificate, which is my kind of pat on the back, but I get these CPD points, which that teachers need on a yearly basis, but also shows the school that actually, look, I'm taking part in something which has got this accreditation. I need a little bit of funding to go towards it, but the reward at the end of it is going to be massive, because I'll get my CPD points, the students will get access to amazing activities, and we can hit the national curriculum learning outcomes as it goes along. It's kind of a win-win-win. And it wasn't until I started looking into the CPD group that I realized that we can make this into a win for everybody.
I'm so glad that you feel that way about the accredited framework, and it actually helped you in terms of building your product, essentially, you know, and helping all those teachers and all those young people ultimately at the end of the day. You know, that's a fantastic thing. It's why we've put it out there. It's what we've done it for, you know, to make make it easier for people to understand what we're trying to achieve here at the CPD group, which ultimately is a tool for you guys to help make you successful, make your courses the best they can be. That's the whole idea. I mean, it's fantastic to hear people talking about it in that way, to be quite honest, Dan, and thank you for putting that out there. So in terms of gathering CPD points, you mentioned it is essential for teachers on an annual basis to gather CPD and then continue to build upon those credits.
Yeah. So, the whole idea is that if we can create, so the first part, like I said, was this access to the free hub models. And then as people wanted to progress, they could then move on to these CPD courses. The next idea now is to make a second level of the CPD courses because we've had quite a few people who have gone through the CPD courses now. They loved it. They're like, right, what's the next thing? So if we can set up a rotation of activities, suddenly we can do one activity every half term and people are accessing great content. So that's our next drawing board now, is to go, right, what's the next stage? What's the next thing that we can add to help students and help teachers, as well as still getting them those CPD points. So we've got a few things kind of in the ideas, maybe going down a monthly newsletter section that they can access, maybe going down crediting a podcast, those kind of things. So we've got some ideas in the chamber ready to go to help people in the best way we possibly can.
Brilliant, Dan. I mean, it's like we say to everybody, if you've got ideas, if you've got thoughts, come and talk to us. We're happy to help. We're here to talk to about anything to do with how, we can support you on that journey as a business, So keep in touch with us, keep talking to us, and, we're happy to help wherever we can. So I just wanted to wrap this up, Dan, by saying thank you so much for joining us. It's so interesting, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners will really enjoy listening to what you've talked about. Okay, it sounds like what you were doing at the Outdoor Ed School is a fantastic piece of work, and I'm sure both teachers and young people are benefiting from it massively. Okay, so again, thanks very much for joining us, and I'll be in touch with you soon to talk about those ideas you've got going on.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on. If you do like the idea of the Outdoor Ed School, then check out our website and check out our podcast as well, and you'll be able to access loads of free information. Support your students if you're homeschooling, got a youth group, or if you're access to schools or anything like that as well.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I mean, I've been on Dan's website, I've looked at the hub, I've looked at the various videos that Dan's put out there for everybody, and they're a fantastic resource. People should take advantage of what they're doing at the Outdoor Ed School, most definitely. So thank you all very much for joining us here on the podcast, and catch us on the next part of the series. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the CPD Group podcast. Be sure to tune in next time for more helpful content. See you soon.
Before you go, did you know that you can receive a free CPD certificate from listening to this podcast? All you need to do is head over to the cpd.group/podcast. That's the cpd.group/podcast and enter the confirmation code 80